What you're about to experience are my opinions and truths. I'm suggesting they're possibilities for you to consider, in which you can then come up with your own logical conclusions.
Today, the greatest risk of global catastrophe doesn't look like this. Instead, it looks like this. If anything kills over 10 million people in the next few decades, it's most likely to be a highly infectious virus rather than a war. Not missiles, but microbes. Now, part of the reason for this is that we have invested a huge amount in nuclear deterrence, but we've actually invested very little in a system to stop an epidemic.
Hello everyone, welcome once again. My name is Logan and this is Decode Your Reality. Today I'm doing one on the unfortunate popular topic, the corona or COVID-19 virus. This would be coronavirus decoded. And I gotta say, I'm literally speechless at the research I was doing and have found on this topic. It's quite literally the most bizarre research I've ever done, and I want to share it all with you today. Now, you watched the beginning of this video. Obviously, Bill Gates, the Microsoft founder, the computer whiz, turned into Mr. Vaccination and Mr. Depopulation. You know, look, I know this guy, you may or may not like him, but, you know, like I look at things from a neutrality standpoint. He's doing his job. And as they say, the superhero wouldn't have a job without the villain. So you just got to become neutral to this part of the whole agenda. And then, of course, you know, look at the agenda and then make your move based upon a strategy. The more you know, the better strategy you can get or have. So, you know, this was done in 2014. And was he talking about the coronavirus? I don't know. You know, I suggest watching the entire 10-minute TED Talks in this. Quite fascinating. I could have put more emphasis on this, but I didn't want to make this presentation too long. So let's get started. My methods of decoding, I use several different layers and then tie them all together, like putting a puzzle together. First and foremost, using numerology, which is letters associated with certain numbers. For instance, coronavirus has many different layers to observe from. Individually, these are the numbers it has. Compound numbers, which are double numbers, 25, 18, and 43. The total, most decoders will look at is the total, 43. Then we can take these numbers and we can then associate them or link them or tie them to the other layers of the mystical arts, which are embedded into nature. You have the cards of illumination, your typical poker deck. 52 cards matching the 52 weeks. 4 suits matching the 4 seasons in nature. And then you have the card system, the tarot, which is derived from the cards of illumination, or the cards of destiny, as my friend Sharon likes to call it. And then, of course, we bring alchemy into this, real science, the elements of the periodic table. When we get our outcomes, folks, we can then tie them to specific elements. We can also do many different things with this, but these are the primary layers I use to decode reality from. And, you know, then of course going into history and esoteric. You know, this right here is the Yod, the 10th letter in the Hebrew alphabet. There's a specific reason I'm showing this, and it's tied to this element right here, iodine, which, you know, if you just follow the breadcrumbs, this is where it leads to. Iodine is derived from the Hebrew letter, the Yod, as in the Yod-He-Vah-He, the ancient Israelite god, the Tetragrammaton. So we're going to get into that, folks. I don't want to go too crazy on the first slide here. So again, I'm using numerology. Notice that the word pandemic, which is what they've labeled it, is a 31, and that matches up with the actual coronavirus named COVID-19. It's kind of interesting. The original name that they first came out with this thing was called 2019NCOV. And when they first came out with it, of course, this is the results you get from numerology, straight up, the very basic fundamentals. 2 master numbers using 2 different ciphers. If you've never done this before, this is using the numbers 1 through 26, matching the letters of A through Z. And in Chaldean's a little bit more challenging to understand and learn from. It's based on phonetics, which is the vibratory rate of each letter, which we get into language and physics and whatnot. But nonetheless, I don't want to confuse the beginner here, but just follow along with the numbers if you're new to this. This is the originating city, supposedly, of this virus. You know, it's interesting, thank you, Joe, that we're in the year of the rat in the Chinese zodiac, and supposedly the flea is the carrier of the Bubonic Plague in the year 1345, which wiped out millions of people in the European nations and Central Asia. And here we go again, supposedly this thing originating in Central Asia, and perhaps maybe tying it to a flea. And it's always with a parasite and a host, folks, whether it's real or not. But nonetheless, Wuhan, when you break this down, and here we go using alchemy, that means we're going to take these single digits tied to the single letters, and then we're going to bring in the elements of the periodic table to match up those. 66515, carbon, carbon, boron, hydrogen, carbon. 66515. Go over our trusty calculator, add that up, we get a total of 47026. And that's how we say that. So we then put that into the numerology cipher again, 47026. And we get the number 94, but behind that, folks, we get a double 47. And 47, I've been showing this so many times throughout my research, is linked to the word Tetragrammaton, which, if you don't know what that means, I'd suggest doing a quick Google search on it. It's the ancient Israelite god, the Yod-He-Vah-He, the YHVH, otherwise known as Yaldabaoth in the Gnostic Demiurge, Yahweh, and then the New Age name would be Jehovah. They're all the same energies. So does this tie the Tetragrammaton to the coronavirus? I don't know. Let's see. The word Wuhan, of course, is a 23. That matches the word of crown. Crown is corona. And what's interesting now, folks, is we get into the cards. Now, this is, if you've never seen this, this is a boilerplate. This is a boilerplate template, and this is called the Master Life Spread. There's another one called the Master Spirit, but this one represents the Earth. This also represents our ego. There's a lot of activity going on with this thing. But nonetheless, you'll notice that there's planets from 1 through 7 on the left, and then there's the planets 1 through 7 along the bottom. So it goes horizontal and vertical, longitude and latitude. And the interesting part is the 23rd card matching that of Wuhan and the word crown is the 10 of clubs, which is why I've highlighted it right here. And the reason why I have Mars there is because it's in the Mars line. If you notice, I highlighted Mars. Now, any of you that know astrology, maybe you just know what Mars is. Mars is the masculine aspect of who we are, but it's also the god of war. So there's a strong tie-in, folks, of the coronavirus being tied to the planet of war. Is this a biological war that we're under? This is the actual, I want to show this real quick, this because I'm going to be referring to this again. This is the actual template for the cards. Notice that there are the 12 months and then the 31 days. And then you can find your card in here, your birthday card. You'll have several cards, but it's rather fascinating. Again, 52 weeks, 52 cards, 4 suits, 4 seasons. These things are extremely accurate. What I thought was interesting was the latitude, longitude. X marks the spot. The energy coming down and giving itself to the world with Wuhan is 30 degrees north and 114 degrees east. And when you add those up, folks, you get the number 144. And for all of you Bible thumpers out there, how important is the 144,000? It's really interesting. The city Denver, as in Denver, Colorado, also adds up to the number 144. It's really interesting. There's a underground city under the Denver airport. It's not a secret anymore. COVID-19 was the name they gave it, finalized it, and notice COVID is 21 and then the number 19. We don't reduce that down. You could, but 2119 is the actual numerology output on this. And the 21st card and the 19th card in the lineages of the cards of illumination are the 8 of clubs is the 21st card and the 19th card is the 6 of clubs. And when you do the numerology on that, 8 clubs, which is what you have here, and 6 clubs, you get the number 61, and 61 is tied to the element promethium. Maybe you've seen the movie Prometheus. And if you go and research Prometheus, it's the supposed, in Greek mythology, it's the god that stole the fire from the gods and gave it to the humans. It's rather interesting. I think there's more fact than there is myth in the Greek mythology. But nonetheless, I'm showing this tie-in because, remember, Wuhan, the latitude-longitude equals 144, matching that of the 61, which matches that of the 8 and 6 of clubs, which matches that of the COVID-19. So some very strong ties in. And then, you're going to ask, maybe you're asking me, well, Logan, what is this significance? Why is this the case? Well, I have a feeling that the stronger tie-ins that these things have, the more realistic that they become. And again, I think the divine or something outside of our physical reality has its hands in everything, and it leaves behind trails. And this is what we're doing, measuring those footprints, measuring those breadcrumbs, the Hansel and Gretel story. So the cards of illumination, 8 of clubs, 6 of clubs, the cousin cards in the tarot are the 8 of wands, wands is clubs, and the 6 of wands. 8 of wands, 6 of wands, and these cards have keywords, and if you know the tarot cards, even if you don't know them, this is a card of fast moving. Things are going to move fast. It means overseas travel, moving over water. And isn't that what Corona's all about? If the origination was in China, well, it's coming from overseas. It's fast moving, fast paced. Go study the 8 of wands, folks. It literally describes a piece of this alleged virus. And then the 6 of wands is the card of victory. That's why the noble person sitting on the horse and has the wreath at the top of these wands. 6, of course, is the first master number. God finished his great work on the 6th day. So this is telling us that it's fast moving and it wants victory. However that looks, folks, I don't know. I would say already that those behind this have already claimed a victory at the amount of slavery that they're keeping people under with a bunch of their propaganda. Whether or not this thing's real, they're still doing a very effective job at what their agenda is. Moving into the tarot straight up, the 21 and the 19, here is the World card and the Sun card. The World card is the last card in the major arcana, then it goes to what they call the minor arcana. And the World card has the 4 faces of God on it: man, the eagle, the lion, and the ox. Those are talked about in Ezekiel 1 verses 10. Yes, folks, the Bible is nothing other than astrology and tarot. It's all tied together. There is no separation, so you can take the divination and throw it out the window, because that's actually not even what we're doing. We're not foretelling the future. We are just literally decoding reality, and the Bible itself is a book of astrology. Nonetheless, the World card is the last card, card 21, and then 19 is the Sun card. This is the world expanded, because the sun lights and expands and warms everything up, meaning it's a card of great expansion. The world expanded, and that's kind of telling the story of what this thing is. It's worldly, it's around the world, and it's expanding, folks. And then, through numerology, the world and the sun, which is right here, we decode those words. That equals the number 64, which is why I have the double helix here in the background, because in our DNA, we have 64 codons. So this is maybe presenting itself as it wanting to attack our DNA, if it is real, folks. Just the idea of it makes it real. Enough people focusing on it. Coronavirus totally is a 43. I showed this in the beginning. The element that has the 43 is the element technetium. And if you go study this on the Royal Society of Chemistry to fact check me, so you know I'm not just making this up, the name is derived from the Greek word technetios or tenectos, meaning artificial. And that's what this symbol is that the Royal Society of Chemistry chose. This symbolizes being created by man. And, you know, I don't know if you've seen this, but this is the actual United States patent on the coronavirus. And if you read these abstract paragraphs, you know, newly isolated human coronavirus, you know, severe acute respiratory syndrome. These are some of the symptoms, if indeed this is true. But this is even has great significance. The 22nd means alchemy. It means change. Great significance, that date right there. I've even decoded this. That ends up becoming the master number 77. If you've watched my video on the guy they had on CNN, he's linked to the 77. It goes really deep, folks. I don't want to spend too much time on that. Coronavirus, when we break it down using alchemy, here are the 11 letters that make up the word coronavirus. 11 is the number of magic. It also is the number of alternating current, as in electricity. And when you add up these 11 elements related to coronavirus, you get the total of 87.069. Now, I want to point out here that the decimal point right here separates the masculine from the feminine. This is the feminine side of the decimal. This is the masculine. I say that because the next time you pump gas, notice that this side will feed this side. And if you know anything about ancient linguistics, it was always reading the sentences from right to left. That's because the feminine side feeds the masculine, moving from east to west. They say ancient Egypt, it was the origination of mankind, perhaps, and then it moved westward, of course, because the feminine feeds the masculine. Nonetheless, you can read from both, and when we read 87069 as what the total of coronavirus is through alchemy, we get the number 88. And of course, how many miles per hour did Marty McFly have to get the DeLorean and Back to the Future? 88 miles an hour. There's a major significance to the number 88. This is the decoding of the word Chronos, which is Saturn, the planet Saturn in the Greek. That equals the number 88. And of course, that has huge implications in this entire presentation. I'm going to get back more to that 88 and Saturn. What about the first death in the United States? That was on the February 29th, Saturday, Saturn Day, February 29th. And of course, that makes it a leap year because typically there's only 28 days in February. So it literally introduced this virus on the first day of the leap year. And of course, Saturday is Saturn Day, which is Chronos Day. And, you know, here again is the boilerplate spread here, folks, and this card is the 9 of clubs because the February 29th card is the 9 of clubs, and that is a card that is getting energy from Venus and Saturn. And if you know anything about Venus, folks, without going too much into this, and I could have went heavily into this, but a lot of people think Venus is the fallen angel Lucifer, which of course can be linked to the deity Satan, which of course people call Saturn, which is kind of interesting. Okay, I'll let you use your own judgment and vantage points here. Interestingly enough, the word corona is 25, matching that of the word Venus. And then of course the city that this guy died in Washington State, was Seattle. So you see the strong ties in, and you know, folks, I'm not trying to cherry pick here. This is why this methodology that I'm showing you, it is legitimate and it is very accurate. And again, man cannot be doing this alone. It would be way too complicated. It would take a very long time to prepare these kinds of things. That's why I know for sure that there's something outside of man's physical realm that is controlling man. And I've said this so many times, we are just hosts for the parasite. Parasite equals the number 25. So I know for sure that is exactly what's going on. Whether or not we can define that is a different story. But anyway, where does Saturn come into this? Because there's Venus with the 25 with Corona, and then Seattle being the death city of the first person. Well, right here, Saturn and COVID, as in COVID-19, both of those equal the number 21. And, you know, for good measures, the word 29 matching that of the day of the first death, that equals 33. And of course, that is the number of the crucifixion and the path to enlightenment, 33. So it's very important. Keep in mind the element arsenic. is the 33rd element, and that right there is deadly. Arsenic is deadly, which of course this would represent. See, the ties in to this is absolutely crazy and bonkers when you look at this stuff, but these are legitimate ties in, folks. What about the elements of the periodic table, matching those up with the numerology of COVID-19? We have the 21 and the 19. We have the elements scandium and potassium. And, the numerology of scandium and potassium is another 64, matching that of the DNA. 64 codons in our DNA. And I mentioned to you that on another slide. There's 64 squares on a chessboard. You think that's done on accident? 64 numbers in the I Ching. Folks, this goes really, really deep. When you add up the two elements through alchemy using the trusty calculator, I made a little error here, but there's no 1.008, but it's 44.956 and 38.964, you get the number 83.92, and folks, that ends up being right here through numerology, it becomes a 39 and 33. 8392 becomes a 39 and a 33. So it's very, very interesting when you start to add these things up and observe them from these vantage points. 39, folks, is tied to the element yttrium, and notice that this has the letter Y. It's the only element that has the abbreviation Y, as in the yod. This is the letter or the equivalence of the Y in the Hebrew alphabet, and we're talking about Yahweh, Yod-He-Vah-He, the YHVH. The New Age name is Jehovah. It's really interesting. This is the 10th letter. The 10th letter in the English alphabet is the letter J, which is where Jehovah came into play. Same deity, same energy, folks. So is this what we're seeing? Is this what's running the COVID-19, And then, of course, here's the 33. I showed this, on this slide right here. And, February 29th was the first death. 29 is 33. So it's interesting because here it is. The 33 is tied to the 39. And this has an atomic weight of 74. So the crucifixion, folks, here is the crucifixion in case, and I'm digressing, I apologize for getting off track, but this is important. Jesus was supposedly crucified at the age of 33, was he not? Well, there is his name in numerology in the English ordinal, and that equals 74, and there is the atomic weight of arsenic. I mean, what are the odds that he was crucified at 33 and then his name in numerology equals 74, and then there are the two numbers right there, hand in hand, and of course arsenic is deadly, it's poisonous, and he was killed at the age of 33. I mean, you couldn't have picked a better element to represent the story of Jesus. And again, who ended up making up all these stories? Folks, there's no way that man can be doing this alone, not when we're seeing these pieces of the puzzle put together. And keep in mind, Jesus' nemesis, Lucifer, the fallen angel, talked about in Isaiah 14 verses 12. Lucifer is matching the 74 of Jesus. It's really interesting. I believe this is the yin-yang, folks, the black and white that makes up our matrix reality. Brother and sister, Cain and Abel, the story goes on and on. But nonetheless, look at these outcomes, folks. And is this the Father? Jesus said you had to get through him to go to the Father. Well, is this the Father? And of course, let's not forget the number 88 right there. And I just showed that the 88 is tied to Chronos, which is Saturn, folks. Saturn is Father Time. Time travel. 88 miles an hour, the DeLorean. It's all tied together. This was absolutely fascinating, folks. I'm almost finished. Thanks for sticking with me. This one is just mind-blowing to me. Thank you, Denzo, for bringing this to my attention today. I got a message from a friend of mine with a text showing this, and this has been all over the internet. Many people have decoded it, but not at this level. I think this is going to be the icing on the cake, folks. This guy right here, Dean Koontz, this famous author, does mostly horror movies and thrillers and whatnot. He had a book, 1981, it came out, called The Eyes of Darkness. And this is page, he couldn't have picked a better page, 333, matching that of, one more than of the crucifixion. I mean, what are the odds, folks? And again, how are you going to write a book and then have this come out on page 333? A lot of editing would have to be done. I'm telling you, these people are being used to write their stories actors and producers and scriptwriters, they're being used to write their music and their movies. There's no other way to explain it. We are being used, folks. And I'm sorry to tell you, that's the truth of it, man. Sometimes it's a tough pill to swallow, but that's what I believe. We are being used. Nonetheless, page 333 of The Eyes of Darkness talks about a Chinese scientist named Li Chen. You can go and research that name, which is very closely resembled to the story of the coronavirus and the scientist. And look at this, man. He calls this Wuhan 400, and they created it in Wuhan, and it's a strain, and it's a perfect weapon, and it's insane, man. This thing coming out in 1981, which, keep in mind, 2020 minus 1981 equals 39, which is right there, folks. The years in between 2020 and 1981, when this book came out, is 39 years. Folks, what are the odds? What are the odds that this is the case right here? Okay, it's really tough. Let's keep going, folks. The release date, here it is, May 10th, 1981. That has a numerology of 25, matching that of Corona, which it talks about the coronavirus. And then I put in the planet Venus because I showed the planet Venus having some kind of authority in this entire process. This was really the big kicker for me, folks. This one just completely put my jaw on the floor. Tom Hanks is the first known celebrity to come out and publicly say he has the coronavirus with his wife. He's stuck in Australia. The guy has the same birthday as Dean Koontz. You know, I've decoded this guy's from Pennsylvania. He's from Concord, California, Everett, Pennsylvania. I decoded the distance. You can decode the distance between their cities. There's the significance in there, folks. This goes so deep. You couldn't even write this. If you were to put this in a novel, it'd be a bestseller because it's so science fiction. It's absolutely crazy. But what are the odds that the first guy that is coming out, a famous person saying he has the coronavirus, and them having the same exact birthdays, folks? It goes even deeper than that. Look at this. Follow the breadcrumbs. The Eyes of Darkness is the name of the book, the title. It equals the number 68. The 68th card in the tarot is the Five of Pentacles. And of course, this is all about crippling. This is all about having not enough. And, you know, the peg leg guy and the bag lady. I mean, this is really a card of, you know, not having enough, like debilitating. And that's exactly what this card is all about. Corona, think debilitating. The matching card in the cards of illumination, Pentacles, means diamonds. It's the Five of Diamonds, folks. That's the 31st card in the deck. And then COVID-19 equals 31. And folks, here is the kicker. Tom Hanks, this is the name he goes by professionally, equals the number 31. You know, folks, you look at these kinds of things and again, putting a puzzle together, but nonetheless, what are the odds of these things linking together like that, folks? That's why this has all legitimacy when you start to decode and look at it from deeper levels. Let's give a few other ones for icing on the cake, folks. Dean Koontz, Tom Hanks, tied together with their birthdays, tied together with this coronavirus, him making it up, Tom Hanks saying he's the first known celebrity to have it. These are the full names of each person in numerology. Dean Ray Koontz is his birth name. Thomas Jeffrey Hanks is his birth name. Together, folks, they equal the number 121. And if you've been following my work, folks, this is massive. This is the element antimony, which is tied together with skull and bones. I could show that left and right. But nonetheless, there it is. The average atomic weight of antimony is 121. Even 121 equals 51, matching the element's protons. Very strong element, folks. And what's really crazy about this is that the country of China is and has been the largest producer of antimony and its compounds, coming out of a mine in Hunan, which is just 257 miles from Wuhan. Go figure, Wuhan and Hunan, they kind of rhyme. It's crazy that, you could possibly say there's an anagram in there. Unbelievable, folks. You know, the Tetragrammaton, 4-letter name of the ancient Israelite god. Folks, look at this is what Dean Koontz goes by professionally. That equals the number 47, matching that of the Tetragrammaton. Folks, is this what is creating the entire Matrix reality, or is it Lucifer and what they put as the scapegoat, the devil, or is this all one character, folks? Last but not least, this is my last slide. There's 2 cards that this character's holding up on the cover of Dean Koontz's book. It would be this, if you were to put a magnifying glass on there, the Jack of Hearts and the Ace of Spades. I mean, folks, you couldn't have picked 2 better cards to represent that after we just showed you the 51 in antimony, tying that to Tom Hanks and Dean Koontz and the links these guys have. The 11th card in the deck is the Jack of Hearts, and the 40th card is the Ace of Spades. 40 plus 11 is 51, and there is the 2 characters on the stage with this whole entire coronavirus and China. You know, is this where this is coming out of? Is antimony coming out of China? Is it the producer behind everything? And what is antimony? It's the all-seeing eye of Horus in the Royal Society of Chemistry, according to them. And I wanted to finish off with this one, folks. In the book of Isaiah, which talks about Lucifer and him being cast down to earth in Isaiah 14 verses 12. But nonetheless, this is a very famous scripture. I've decoded this. If you haven't seen my video, go check it out. I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. I do all these things. Well, folks, things equals 21, as does the word Saturn. And I showed COVID is 21. That is Saturn, folks. So, what is it that you saw during this presentation? I'm just one set of eyes from my observation point. I know there's more to this. I could have given more and more. I could have given hours of a presentation on this. But folks, this is the most bizarre thing I've ever seen since I've been decoding, folks. And I mean, you can't rule this stuff out. These are legitimate connections. Well, that's all I got for today. My name is Logan. This is Decode Your Reality. I appreciate you watching.